Terry Murphy, and you're invited to the very first Monday Money Mondays. And guess who we've got? We were able to really snag a biggie. We've got Krisstina Wise. Krisstina Wise is the author of Falling for Money. Krisstina, is there anything you don't know about money, sweetie?
Oh, there's probably a lot of things I don't know, but it's been something that I've been studying for a couple decades now. So I probably know a little bit more than the average.
Yeah, I would say so, because, you literally worked yourself to death is essentially what you did. And when you're on that gurney and everything was shutting down, you made a commitment to yourself. And it's one that women don't make very often, which is, I got to take care of me. I mean, you did a spectacular job of taking care of ex-husbands. I can attest to that. But no, really, with 2 kids, I mean, you had a lot of reasons to stick around. But what happened there that made you become so intentional about helping other women never be in that position ever?
Oh my gosh, there's so many reasons, actually. And I mean, I like to start the story by saying, let's say if we went back to 2013 and I would have gone to a fortune teller that had 100% accuracy for predicting the future. And that in 2013, that fortune teller would say, Krisstina, a few years from now, you're going to be completely out of the real estate industry if you've known it. You're going to have walked away from your being an icon in the industry, being featured everywhere, all the things that I was, as an innovator of the year and all the things. If you're going to just walk away from that and you're going to be teaching money to women and helping people just get out of this chase of money and really build freedom and wealth, that's your future. I'd have said, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm on my trajectory. I'm on my career path. I'm great at this real estate thing. And that's the silliest thing I ever heard of. And who am I to teach money, So, I mean, I would have been 100% convinced that there's no way this is what I'd be doing. So, come 2015, after, some big life events happened, and here I am teaching this. So anyway, it's a funny story how I got here, and, some nice ups and a lot of downs, but ultimately, I've learned so much in this money journey of my own. And there've been these, what I call kind of these very specific life events, how we all have these very specific events that send you in a radically different direction that you never anticipated.
Yeah. And one of the wonderful things that I'd like to mention here is, if you haven't met Macy, one of her better creations, Macy is not only beautiful, but she's brilliant when it comes to money as well. And with your programs that you have, and today we talking about the mistakes that real estate professionals make, especially women, living, transaction to transaction, which is so stressful. Who needs more stress? No one. If you're alive in this country today, you realize that there's stress everywhere, and how you interpret it, of course, is what happens. But nobody needs to go through what you went through. And so tell us a little bit about how can we avoid, first of all, I don't think anybody needs to depend on anybody for life by design. And so if you don't have a design, you're going to live life by default. And so for the next 30, 45 minutes, I was hoping to share with our group, because you've got wealthy, as in well, be well, but wealthy as well. And you've been able to be a phoenix coming from the dust now, what, 3 times, twice? I know twice for sure. And you're very, very specific now about how you live your life, because you have the means to do that. So in real estate, which is just taking a hard left after it was just basically, and I'm going to say this carefully as a licensed person for a million years, which was pretty just order taking. I mean, it was so fast. And if you've only been in the real estate business the last 10 years, then there's a different transaction coming. Can we say that?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that. How do you keep from being on that commission to commission treadmill?
Yeah, well, really, it's understanding that there is a difference between income and wealth. And we're not taught this, so we don't understand it. And we're just taught to make money. And all the accolades, kudos, attagirls, attaboys, it's all based on GCI, gross commission income, or brokerage top line, with lots of zeros. And that's what gets on stages. That's what gets the, the medals around the neck. And that's what gets you, speak at the, at the national conventions. But what nobody talks about really is wealth. And so we don't understand the difference. And if we're in the income game, it's different than the wealth game. And the income game means we're really always chasing the next dollar. And in real estate, if we don't have wealth, and I'll talk a little bit about the difference between rich and wealth and the difference between income and wealth. But when we don't have wealth, we only have the option of, okay, that was a great commission. Now I have to chase the next one. And that's what it becomes. And with real estate, we're unemployed after our last transaction, unless we have wealth. And so that's the income game. Again, it's so confusing because that's where we get rewarded. It's the carrot. And, and it's the ego, right? So when we're doing really well, we get to brag, we get to buy cool things. We get to live the lifestyle. We get to, like I said, be on the stages in our brokerages. We get to put it on Facebook. There's nothing, that's awesome. But again, there will become a day when we get tired or when we're burnt out or we want to take a weekend off or we don't want to answer the phone. Or in my case, I just got sick and I was just out completely. So the only way to get out of that game is where we really want to turn a portion of that income into wealth. And what wealth is wealth exists on the balance sheet. That's the assets that we have that create the income that either supplement or replace our working income. And that's ultimately where we want to get is what I call financial freedom. But we're not after the money. We're essentially after time. We want our time. We want choice. We don't want to have to go chase the next commission if we don't have to.
I want everybody to hear that. Okay. It's all time and it's all perception of value. And it's also a trade. And I like to be irreverent and talk about how we prostitute our time for money, because we do. And of course that gets people's attention because it's slightly irreverent. But when you said time, if everybody goes, oh, you have the same 24 hours, but what do you do in that 24 hours? And so you're talking about assets that work for you when you don't work, so that if you do want to build in that day off or that vacation or that sabbatical or whatever it is, you have the systems in place to support you. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. And so when we're making great money, let's say we're making lots of commissions, either through being an agent or through brokerage, one way or another, and we pay ourselves that money, really we can buy two things with it. We can buy stuff. Well, we can buy three things. We can buy stuff, status, or time. And so many times when we don't understand that we're not chasing and working for money, so we can, put $100 bills under our mattress and let them stack up and look at them, we're creating money, chasing money, working for money so that we can do one of these three things. So the first thing is stuff, so we start making a lot of money. What do? We start buying more stuff.
You buy shoes. What's your problem?
Right. We do. We just start buying more stuff.
Yeah.
And the more the money goes up, the stuff then matches status, because now it goes from something that might not have a label to something now where the labels matter. So now it's just not any car. It's the top of the line Mercedes. It's not any bag. It's the Louis bag. It's not any piece of jewelry. It's the Kendra Scott jewelry. It's not any shoe, it's the Jimmy Choo shoes, So now we're just not buying the stuff, but now we're buying the status to kind of match this income to portray and show the world, look at me, I'm doing amazing. Nothing wrong with that. But when 100% of the money we make are going towards stuff and status, what we're not doing is we're not using a piece of it to buy time. And I say buy time first, because there will become a day where the time is more important than the stuff and the status.
Oh, let's talk. Have you moved recently? I'm going to tell you, we make people move every day, and I consider myself fairly practical. But I got to tell you, we as in this country have stuff, and there's one financial person who said, look around, and that's where your money is, and all the stuff you bought, and stuff winds up in a garage sale as soon as you croak. So. You talk about that health and wealth are one and the same, because if you're not healthy, you can't have income. because you're not working if you're working transaction to transaction. So, and it's not like you're not coming from the experience. I mean, you were a millionaire coach. You created several multi-million-dollar businesses, including the Good Life Luxury, Paperless Agent, a Wealthy, Falling for Money. That's a romance novel. I mean, it's not like you haven't walked the walk, which I think is important. A lot of people can talk about having money because they've always had money. If you've never had money, you have a scarcity mentality. And so, yeah, that stuff makes you validate yourself. So you feel like, oh, yes, I've made it. But when you really make it, it's when you have choices, and the choices are what you give your time to. So tell us, what would be your first piece of advice on that?
Well, I'd like to tell a little story, and that, that's, relevant, I think, to the real estate industry, that, when I was at my height, and, my name was like a household name in the industry. I mean, like everybody knew who I was at the time. And it's really interesting. So I had a lot of notoriety, and people, all over the country recognized my name and, wanted to part of my brokerage. And so what they noticed was my public success. They noticed my brokerage. They noticed me standing on platforms. They noticed, how what appeared to be how successful I was. And I was, and I was doing well in business. Like, I was making good money through the businesses and all the things I was doing, which was Good Life Luxury and Paperless Agent, and some of the businesses I was creating at the time. So they did well, but that was all the notoriety. That's what everybody paid attention to. And they're all asking, Krisstina, how do I make more money in my brokerage? What technology are you using? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? As though, as long as I could teach them the secrets of being a great brokerage and a great agent and making a certain amount of money per year by doing that, that's what it was all about. As long as they got that information, that would be the key to financial success. But what they didn't do, and that's what I call riches. Riches are they're very obvious. So, you can drive up to, in a valet, and somebody, maybe they're driving a Lamborghini. They may be rich in the sense that they have the income to buy that level of status. They can afford the payment on the Lamborghini, let's say. They have enough income to afford the payment on the Lamborghini, to afford, the 6,000 square foot house overlooking the ocean. They can afford the payment on, the credit card bills that come in. And they make enough income to afford all those payments. So that's very glamorous. It's rich. It's a certain level of income that it can afford that lifestyle. But you don't know if they're wealthy or not. Wealthy means that the assets pay for all that, not their, then it's all paid for, and that, they've got a lot of money in the bank. And what I mean is, wealth can't be seen. So wealth means people could see all my notoriety and what was public, but they couldn't see whether I had wealth or not. So the wealth piece is, nobody saw my financial statements. Nobody saw my real estate portfolio. Nobody saw my brokerage accounts. Nobody saw, the crypto I was building at the time. That's all very private.
Or your FICO scores or anything like that.
All of that stuff, right? So that's the wealth piece. And so while I was building the businesses, and part of building the success of the business was the notoriety, what I was equally doing that was very private, which I was building wealth, but nobody can see that. But I was more serious about building my wealth than I really was about building my businesses. My businesses were just a vehicle. The more successful I could be in business and more money I could make there, the faster I could create my wealth and financial freedom. But nobody ever said, wow, Krisstina, let me see your portfolio. Wow, what's your net worth? Wow, how are you, how were you out of the account for 2 years and your business crumbled and you were sick and in your deathbed, but you're still able to pay your bills and you're still able to recover and you're able to pay $250,000 to get your health back. Tell me how you did that. Yeah. That nobody ever asked me that question.
Because it's not as pretty and it's not as validated as what I would say the outward pieces of, or what do you want to call it, the accoutrements of being rich. I mean, you can see somebody who's loaded with jewelry, but they live in a 1-bedroom flat. At the end of the day,
or they're broke at the end of each month.
Yeah.
So the thing is when you're that's what a high income lifestyle, where it makes us feel rich. And so it's very deceiving. But what we're not, until there's a crisis or until we wake up just fucking exhausted, one day. Like, I don't want to have to go chase the dollar tomorrow until we have that moment. That's the only time we finally wake up to, wait a second, I have to go do this. I have to go play the, the play again button tomorrow to pay next month's bills. That's what financial stress is, no matter how much money you make. And we think that the answer to all my money problems is to make more money. No, the answer to our money problems is to create the wealth that starts to take off less of the hustle that we have to go out to pay next month's bills. That's what we call the chase. That's what's stressful. And the more money we make, the more we get stuck in the lifestyle. And when things happen, like right now, when real estate sales are going down, like most people are not going to make money, as much money this year as maybe they made the last couple, 2 or 3 or 10 years.
Well, especially.
Now, do our living expenses automatically go down to match the change or reduction in our income? No, because we like living that lifestyle and status. We're used to it. We're accustomed to it, and it feels good. So now we have to go work harder, and we just don't understand that's what the grind is. That's where we're broke at the end of each month, because that means we have to go do it again, as opposed to, when we build wealth and get to a place, where I've been, working hard to get to, every month my bills are covered because my assets pay for the cost of my lifestyle. So that's
when you say assets, are you talking about real estate investments? Let's define assets, because one of the things that I know is that people don't realize, I got to be a contributing author to a book that I will not mention the title, but it was the best real estate advice I ever received. And the reason my submission, I'm quite sure, was accepted was because the opening quote was, "Don't wait to buy real estate and wait." And traditionally, real estate has been one of the best investments you can make. Now, of course, that's regional and economic and whatever, just because you buy real estate. But it's one of the depreciating assets, and you got to start somewhere. And home ownership is the American dream, which I'm working hard to help do it with a group called the Data Advocates, because it's becoming more and more obscure. And we have big companies buying huge amounts of properties, rental properties, and rental's just going to go straight up. So what are you suggesting a first step is? And by the way, in this series, we're going to talk about lots of ways to.
Yeah, we'll talk lots of ways. I mean, I saw a quote one time that I've taken as my own. It's like, some women love Prada, I love properties. And ultimately, we spend our money. It's just, what are we going to spend it on? And I love real estate. I think we wouldn't be in real estate if we didn't love it. So I want to encourage everybody to love the ownership of it, not just the selling of it, right? Not just that piece. And, in real estate, we have so many advantages. One, we can save at least 3% of a commission in many cases. We see the good deals. We come across certain situations, and we've got the insight. We understand how it works. We understand management. There's all these elements that when we're in the industry, to me, it just makes complete sense that we should have, I don't like the word should, but that why don't we want to build that real estate portfolio? Because we're in it, right? And it's just where we have that advantage that those that are not in the industry don't necessarily have.
We know all the players, we know the ins and outs. So, the internet can put whatever it wants out there, but boots on the ground is a whole different viewpoint and perspective. And we know where the traffic is at 3 o'clock when the high school lets out. Exactly. We know who the plumbers are. We know who manages well. So we do have an unfair advantage. I would agree with you. And do you think that there's a play here, Krisstina, in your vast experience, that we don't buy it because we need the commission first, when in fact, if we started looking at a real plan, a business plan to acquire at least, say, 1 property a year in some way where we took money from each commission to do that, what would be one of the processes that you would say, here's a way to start right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, so what's great about real estate also is this word, it's a wealth word, and it's called leverage. And so just like we know we can borrow to buy our primary residence, we can buy a piece of real estate and get all of the real estate asset advantages without having 100% of the cash. So if you want, I mean, you can do stock options and to do some different things. So I guess there's similar things like in the stock market, but not the same. But we don't have to have, you know, $1 million cash sitting there. We can have 10, 20%. But the thing is that when we're in the wealth game, the only way to build wealth is not to spend all of your money on your lifestyle. So you have to know what dollar amount, let's say on an annual basis, are you going to sweep out of your primary account. That what I teach is put it in an investment bucket, and you grow that investment bucket so that when the opportunities present themselves, you have the cash. And you're always putting money with every paycheck, you put money in that investment account and you let it grow. And when you start having cash, the investment opportunities come to you. You never really have to look for them. There's an abundance of opportunities that pass across your desk when you have money. But that's just it. It's hard to go out and buy that. You know, if you have a client that's in a desperate situation and needs to get out fast and is willing, let's say, to sell to you at a discount, you know, based on market value, because you can close in 2 weeks and, you know, get it done. And, you know, they're willing to do that as an example. You can't do that if you don't have the cash sitting there. So what we're doing is we're selling a boatload of real estate. We're making a lot of money on an annual basis, and we're living that stuff in status, and we don't have the cash ready and willing. So whether we invest that money in real estate or crypto or stocks or any 10 million different ideas of where to invest, you have to have cash. Now, the thing about real estate, cash-wise, what is a little bit of the barrier to entry is you can go just buy a little piece of stock and it doesn't take a lot of cash sitting there. You know, you can buy, you know, a few shares of Amazon or Apple stock and, you know, it's not cheap, but again, it doesn't take a ton of cash to do that. But real estate, if you're going to buy real estate for the cost it is today, and you're, you know, as an investment, you're probably going to put, you know, somewhere between 15 and 20% down, you have to have real cash sitting there. So like what you said, you really have to set up your lifestyle by design. Like, okay, by a certain age, how many real estate properties do I want? If I buy them this way, how much cash flow is that going to give me? And that cash flow needs to match the cost of my lifestyle. So that means if I buy one property every 2 years for the next 10 years, I should have this net worth and this cash flow. And so now I can say these, you know, if real estate on average is going to cost me this amount, I'm going to have this amount saved every 2 years. So that means I need to make sure I always have that money. And then we just go along to that plan. But if we don't have a plan like that in place, if we don't know we're in the wealth game and we're going to do this, it's just really easy to spend our money and say, hey, this is really fun right now and think it's going to last forever. And then, you know, money's a little bit easy and it's super fun to make. And then ultimately, we keep kicking the can down the road, like I'm going to invest later. And the worst thing we can do is keep kicking that can down the road. Like the sooner we start, you'd mentioned my daughter, Macy, and Macy will be 26 here in about a week or so. And she has her first real estate property that she makes cash flow of $800 a month. She just closed on it and did that. She's got her whole life insurance and she's doing that and saving, and she's now saving for her next investment property. She doesn't even make 6 figures a year in her job. That what she earns, you know, she probably gets a little bit close with bonuses and things, but it's not like she's making, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars like the rest of us.
And she's 26.
And she's 26. And so she's going to be, by the time she's 35, she'll probably have 3 or 4 properties that she's saved and done this. And, you know, you do 800 a month or 1,000 a month times 4 or 5. You know, by the time she's 35, she's probably going to make, you know, $10,000 a month or so in passive income. But that's because she's starting at 26, right? So by the time she gets our age, think where she's going to be.
Well, and not only that, but, you know, it's never too late to start. I think part of it has to be that you've got to put your ego aside. I think a lot of people that I've worked with, they want it all. They want the view of the ocean and the whole thing. And I'm saying, start off with a starter home. And my little niece, as a matter of fact, got a little bit of money from family, and she was renting. And it was a simple story. I mean, I was going to send her a gift for her birthday, and I said, where am I sending it? And she said, oh, I'm still renting. And I found out how much she was renting for, and I know where she was, which is nowhere. And I said, well, what if I could show you a way to own something so you could build some equity for less money than you're paying right now? And she goes, oh, I don't think that's possible. So again, getting the education. Now she's only 24, 25. She owns a property. She is so happy every day. I had to fight parents and grandparents and everybody to get her in there, but she's got everything. It's not her forever home, but she's got a garage. She never had a garage. She has a fireplace. Okay. In the meantime, she's paying the same money she would have paid this broken down apartment. And I'm not saying rental isn't an important factor, but you don't have to live there forever. And so would you say that ego plays a part in that? Or
yeah, well, our ego gets to get attached to the status. And then we're in the comparison game. And when you're in the wealth game, again, it's a different game. It's like chess and checkers. I mean, they're radically different. So everything about it is, it's a different strategy. It's a different mindset. It's a different behavior. And with wealth, you live below, like, so if you and I make the same income and you're in the riches game and I'm in the wealth game, and let's say we're both making, $500,000 a year, and so let's say you're spending all your money to live the lifestyle that says, hey, look at me, I make $500,000 a year, whatever the number is. And the house reflects that, the cars reflect that, the vacations reflect that, the clothing reflects that, the jewelry reflects that, the eating out reflects that, the parties reflect that, right? Nothing wrong with it. But for me to be in the wealth game, I'm going to be, whatever I spend on that lifestyle is going to be probably 20 to 30% less than the money you're spending. So what that means is the same income, I'm living a different lifestyle. I'm living a lifestyle that doesn't necessarily reflect that $500,000 a year. So that's where the ego is that let's say I'm living a lifestyle that's reflecting half that or something. So my cars will be different. My houses will be different. My eating out will be different. My parties will be different. My clothing will be different. And so we have to be okay with the people that look at us and kind of judge us, so to speak. It's like we can't care what other people think.
exactly.
To be in that social club. And you kind of be like, it's kind of laughable anyway, because you can see what everybody else is doing and you're doing so far less that on the public sense, but nobody has any idea that, oh, you're making just as much money, but it's this private thing that if we were to compare our financial statements, it would show a much different picture. So ultimately, that's where we want to get out of the ego. But the only way to do that is we have to be so intentional about, I want wealth, I want my time, I want this lifestyle, I want freedom, I don't want financial anxiety, I want all these different things. And I'm willing to do the trade-off to do that. And even, and we all get caught up in it and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's funny, I still have my big, 4,500 square foot house with an infinity edge pool on 2.5 acres. It's beautiful, it's stunning, it's a multi-million-dollar home. I built it, it's gorgeous. I lived in it for a while because I earned it, I even paid it off type thing. So, I did all the things right, but then I'm sitting in this house, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? It's not even with it paid off, the monthly expense to run that thing, to keep it going, the maintenance, the yard work, the pool work, the stuff. Yeah. So I just said, screw it. And now I lease that thing for a bank, and I live in my little 1,300 square foot bungalow that's got teeny tiny closet space. So I can't even buy much shit, And I just realized I'm so much happier here in a way. Like I just don't have any stuff,
I think that that's part of the evolution, especially when you're a kid that, only had 1,300 square feet for 11 people. I mean, I get that. But, if somebody was listening to this and lives in New York or lives in California, Los Angeles, trying to buy a property, any property. I mean, my experience in California, in San Diego, was what we would have as a starter home, outside of Chicago was a couple $1 million. What do you think about even fractional ownership at this point? There's
things like that, if you don't want to get into, like real estate ownership and management, there's what I call syndicates. There's plenty of ways to invest in real estate where, you can put your money into a fund. I mean, I have a lot of my money in different funds as well, just not, single family or multifamily, but where you just put in, let's say your $100,000 that you've saved in your investment property, you give it to somebody else that's part of a group, like a syndicate, where they're raising funds to buy like a $10 million piece of property or something. So then it's an LLC, you own your fractional piece of that, you get some dividends, you'll get a big check once they sell it and exit. So there's different ways to do it. Like if you are in a location where it's prohibitive, or you just don't want to manage it and do these different things. So again, when you're in the wealth game and you start putting the money aside and you're intentional about growing your wealth and hitting these numbers, what I call, your financial freedom numbers, again, you'll learn that there's many different ways to do it, but it'll never happen unless we start the first step of.
I was just going to say, number one. So,
right.
So wouldn't you say that the most important first step is to know what it costs you to live, not to buy stuff or go out to dinner, but like just to pay for your standards, your electric, your gas, your water, your taxes, your health insurance, your car, fuel, all that stuff. If you know what it costs you, then you can know what you have to make to cover that, so that you can figure out what you can appropriate for investment. Because I think, a lot of the people that I coach don't have a clue what it costs them to live every day.
No, that's the second step. So the first step is the mindset piece. It's the decision piece. It's the decision that I'm going to do what it takes to build wealth. And to understand that it's mindset in the sense of we have to really want to and believe that we can, which everybody can, and I'm worthy of it and all the mindset stuff. And then the other part to that is the understanding that part of the mindset is, and with the desire, is that money is knowledge based. So just to understand, I'm probably going to have to learn something. If I've not done it yet, there's probably things I don't know that I need to learn to make this desire now a reality. And that's where I come in, or people like me that actually teach you how to do it, because it's not obvious. Otherwise, we'd always already be doing it. So that's the first step. Part of that piece also is what I call the relationship with money. Part of the desires, I want to get good with this. I want to understand my money. I don't want to abdicate it anymore. I don't want to put it off anymore. I don't want to procrastinate. I don't want to stick my head in the sand. I don't want my husband or the man in my life to do it. And that's where I like to see the women piece coming in. And, it took me a long time to even to realize this about myself, that I was really embarrassed and ashamed to even say it publicly, because I didn't think that was me, but I realized it truly was me. And you even said, like, a couple ex-husbands got my money, and many as women, we found ourselves in that situation. And at first I had some resentment towards that, like, just being pissed off at them type of thing. Like, how could they? But then I realized, like, no, I'm 100% responsible for my entire life. And when I really looked at it, what I realized is I had some worthiness thing, or some belief that I couldn't do it without a man, or something, like they were somewhat responsible for this. So I gave the first one, I gave all the power to. I didn't look to any of my money. And then that was a disaster. The second one, I was really involved, but, and created all the wealth and everything that we had. But still, I had something in my mind that I couldn't do it on my own or something. And it wasn't until the end of that relationship, let's say now to be my third time up, when now 100% of the wealth I've created since then, I've had more wealth than I've ever had. I do financially better now than I've ever done. And it's been without any man in my life, right? So it's like I finally proved to myself that I was the creator. I did do these things. I am capable. And it's like I kind of knew that all along, but I had some false belief about myself that I needed the man for something. And it's so shameful kind of said it, because I was like powerhouse, the badass, the powerhouse, the Krisstina Wise,
Yeah, I get that. But honestly, think about generational dynamics there. Not that you're there, but, there was a time that was the case, that the man was responsible for all of that. But as we look at the power of millennials, because they outnumber the boomers significantly now, and the younger ones coming up, there's much more independence on that. And I think the mindset has changed. I still see a lot, that's that Maslow thing where, yes, I want to have the car and the stuff. But like you said, if you can get the knowledge, first create the awareness, and then, just like anything you get fascinated with, whether it's golf or knitting or whatever you're into, when you get fascinated with it, you want to learn about it. And I personally will tell you that the whole world finance can scare the bejesus out of me. I had trouble with fractions, but it's really not that crazy. And when I went through the program, and I think you called it the, Sovereignty Academy occurs, but you called it the Wise Money School. It was pretty simple. I mean, she talked to you about buckets and, what you put in that bucket, and it's non-negotiable. It's just non-negotiable. And it's a habit. It's just like any other habit. And so, you have to get a mindset, number one. Number two, you have to believe you can do it, which
it's a belief you can do it. And it's out of this desire to want to know your money. So where we're not abdicating it, that even the millennials is, the young women that Macy spends time with and teaches, they love making the money, but still, there's still a little piece, like I'm not good at math, or I don't like the investment piece, or
I don't understand.
Let me give it to somebody else to manage for me. So that we still haven't overcome that as women yet. So I want women to be financially powerful, financially empowered, and we're the only ones that can do that. That we are confident and competent. We're confident because we're competent. And money's so easy to learn. We just don't know how easy it is because we've got these background stories. Like, I'm not good at fractions. I'm not good at numbers. I'm not good at the things. And money has nothing, just simple wealth and the things that we learn in the program is so easy. Like it would, everybody says, like, you mean I've been putting money off my entire life, scared to death of it, and it's this simple? It's like, yeah, it's really this simple.
So again, we're trying, our goal here for Smart Women, Smarter Choices, Women's Wisdom Network, and of course, your whole network is how can we help women build that allowance, that entitlement to start taking care of themselves without sacrifice or whatever. Stuff is going to come and go. We know that, but we all know about remember that cool stuff you wanted when you were 20, you don't want it so much anymore. So, I mean, it is a come and go thing, but as humans, we always want more. So I'm saying if you were going to, in the next 10 minutes, give something that, because our next, this is going to be a Monday series going forward, because my goal here is to help women on every level with resources like yourself. Because you said, well, you have to have knowledge. Well, where are you going to get it? If you go to, a stock person, they're going to get a commission. Or if you're already in real estate, you already know where properties are. And I know, and statistically, if you always look at the data, rents have gone up for the last 40 years. They have gone up every year for the last 40, and they skyrocketed recently because just like supply and demand, the housing demand is up. We got crunched in 2008 with the builders, with whatever, and then COVID happened, and that's kind of cut back. So people need food, shelter, and clothing, and man, they always need shelter, right? So it may not be a Prada, but you got stuff on your back, you're good. Let's look at the shelter thing. What's a step that they can do right now? Start like focusing on lower priced properties, looking at joint ventures.
So I'm actually I'm doing a webinar. I think it's later. I think it's Thursday where I'm going to be teaching. I'm going to spend an hour or so really sharing the mindset and things to do, especially in this market right now. And it's wisemoneymethod.com/workshop. So if anybody wants to sign up for that, and I'm going to be talking about my real estate portfolio, the mindset I'm going into, the times, and what what my plan and strategy is. So wisemoney.com/workshop. If everybody
is that live?
It'll be live, and I'll do Q&A and the different things.
Right. Is that your charge for that?
No charge. Nope. Okay. I'm just going to be teaching. I've been everybody's been asking me. And so I thought, all right, I'll just do a webinar and talk to everybody at one time. So that's coming up, and I'll go into a lot of detail. But ultimately, one, we want to make sure, like, we can't take advantage of any opportunities if we don't have cash. So that's a big thing. But when you said, like, what are steps we can do to even get started? There's the mindset and the relationship with money. Like, we want to learn this and get competent with money, and to read books or work with me or someone like me to do that is kind of a first step. The second thing then, like,
before you skip over that, tell us how would they work with you if they wanted to?
So the best thing there is I just like to have what I call these money kind of like coaching calls. And in that, you can go to Krisstina.com/call. And you can, spell my name, KRISSTINA.com/call. And you can just get on my calendar, and I call them money therapy sessions or money coaching sessions or whatever you want. We just talk about money in a way that's super fun. No strings attached. It's a great way to air things. And I just say, just show up. I make money really easy and fun. It doesn't matter your financial situation, wherever you are. I've been there, I promise, no matter, what situation it is. And we just have a conversation. That's a good way to get started. And, even if you show up to the call, some work that you can do to start thinking about it is that, one is to say, hey, I'm going to get good at this money thing. And maybe Krisstina is the first step, just to see if she can point me in the right direction or help me herself. Number two is, like you said earlier, the next step is we need to know how much our lifestyle costs. We have to calculate it. It needs to be quantified. It can't be guessing. Energy loves clarity. Wealth comes to clarity. It can't be nebulous. It can't be wishy-washy. It can't be ignored. You will never have wealth if you're not crazy, crazy about your money. So how much does it cost to live your lifestyle? And just look back like the last 90 days and get an average, or, where this conversation's in August. So look back like the last 7 months, how much, just average it out. But you're gonna have to look at every dollar you spent, which for many people, it's not organized. And so it's really hard to even determine how much. And if it's hard to determine how much money you spent, you don't have a quick profit and loss you can pull in 2 seconds. There's like an aha that, okay, my money needs some help.
There you go.
So that's the second step. And it's to look at, okay, if I spent $100,000 on my lifestyle in the last, say, 6+ months, then let's say it's going to cost twice that. So now the third step is to multiply our annual cost by 20. So let's just say it's $200,000. So multiply that times 20. And so 100,000, that's $4 million.
I was going to say
that means, so $4 million, that's the net worth we need that will produce $200,000 of income-ish as a rule of thumb. It's a very easy, in the program, we get more, more specific, but this is a good rule of thumb just to start getting an idea where you are. So that means you need roughly, let's say, if you love real estate, you need $4 million worth of real estate that will produce around, once you start pulling it out, that's going to roughly produce $200,000 of cash flow. So profitable cash flow. So what that means is that if it costs us $200,000 to live our life, that's pretty good. Then we need $4 million of assets. And the day that it hits that, and we're able to pull off that 200,000, now we don't have to go churn out those commissions anymore because the real estate we own is paying for it, not our hard work to go sell real estate to other people.
Well, it makes really good sense then to sign up for this call you've got coming up. And you said it was, would you repeat that?
Yeah, so it's wisemoneymethod.com, wisemoneymethod.com/workshop. Yeah. So that's where I'm going to be going over some of these numbers. And then the next step is to look at the gap. If I have zero net worth now, then I need 4 million. It's like, all right, I need to start producing, I need a strategy for producing, $4 million of net worth assets over a certain period of time, or whatever the number.
And if you're freaking out and your eyes are rolling back in your head when you hear the word 4 million, I think you just have to live that scarcity. I mean, I'm from a big family with lots of kids. I mean, 4 million is significant to me. But so that mindset's really important. And Krisstina, we are going to be doing this every Monday here at Money Mondays Live, and we're going to encourage you to send in your questions ahead of time or join us, pass it on, share it. We've got it on our Facebook and LinkedIn and all of our social media. We've got right here, I've got 15 different topics that we're going to be addressing, including why women stay on the financial hamster wheel. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're 20, you've got a whole lot of different energy than you do at 40 or 50. I'm just going to tell you, you don't want to hear too bad, too sad, but there'll be a day you get up where you go, in Italian, we say basta, I've had enough, because you can't keep it up. So you've got to have assets that work for you. Would you agree, Krisstina?
Yeah. And if you're a woman that's in your 20s or 30s, oh my God, I'm implore you to do this work now. It's going to set up your whole life radically different than all of your peers. And you're going to get money and talk about confidence and empowered. When you have your money straight, you feel more powerful and confident and confident in other areas of your life. It just transcends. It's just, you get to walk with a different step.
You do.
But,
And,
yes.
and wouldn't you say it really boosts your confidence, because, you know, if you are in a situation where you want to get into a relationship, you're okay on your own. You've learned
Totally.
how to on your life. And I will just tell you that that makes really, really good sense for those of you that don't, as you roll your eyes with your tight skin and your judgment. That's really, really nice that at some point of your life, you feel good about it. Well, we promised to keep this about 45 minutes. And I got to tell you, we could talk to you for days. Besides the fact that you're talented and stunningly beautiful, you're smart, and you really have the heart to want to help women, which is what we do, which is why we have Smart Women, Smarter Choices. I know a lot of women start businesses and work too hard. So we've put together a program to help them run their business, you know, bare bones, just kind of stuff. And you can show us how to make the money to sustain life by design, not by default. So this is Krisstina Wise with 2 S's, Krisstina at Wise Money. And Krisstina, is there anything you'd like to close this with, so that if somebody wants to reach you, how would they do that?
Yeah, just Krisstina.com/call is the best thing. Instagram's probably second place. And just show up the webinar, get on my email list, because I write weekly blogs about money, lots of free stuff, and then free webinars. And I can talk money forever. I never get tired of it. I love it. I love teaching it. I love sharing it. I love seeing the light bulbs go off. I love changing women's lives when it comes to money. When every woman realizes, like, oh my God, I can do this. I've got this. I can do this all on my own. And it's just a really beautiful thing. So I love what I do. That's why we're doing these monthly or weekly, so that we can just keep taking money subjects and do Q&As and whatever we can do to get this entire group super excited to have this money conversation. Money's not a topic that's talked about. So this is a safe, fun place where any money subject is welcome, and
there we go. So we're going to share you on a number of different sites, including Realty Times and the Women's Wisdom Network. We've got great checklists and things that I've gone through personally, which I could just tell you is amazing. And if there's a time for you to take control of your life, there's not a better time than right now with the great Krisstina Wise. I'm Terry Murphy. Join us again next Monday, 2 o'clock Central, 12 Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for another conversation on Money Matters with Krisstina Wise and Terry Murphy.